Lovely lists, Idvar Torah for Parashat Noah. I was a bit surprised at myself this week. I have an inexplicable attraction to lists in Tanakh, especially lists of people's names, and I've written about them more than once. The surprise came when I realized that although Parashat Noah boasts two familial lists that take up a significant volume of the parasha, I never gave them the attention they deserve, something that will change in the following lines. First, we should characterize the lists in our parasha and understand their goals. The first list appears in Perek Yud and has branching qualities. What I mean is, it creates a family tree with Noach as the trunk and Japheth, Shem, and Shem as the central branches, from each of which more and more branches grow. In contrast, the list in Perek Yud Aleph is linear. Shem begets Arpachshad, who in turn siles Shelah, who has Eber, up to Terah's family. Instead of a tree with branches, this list resembles a chain with many links. I don't think it would be delusional to say that the very structure of these two lists indicates their different purposes. Chain lists, such as the two lists in Parashat Bereshit, create a historical sequence, and branching lists, which include most of all the other lists in the Tanakh, populate the world. The thing about Parashat Noah is that it sits on the seam between the long lists and the broad lists. I can go on, but I want to focus on the list in Perek Yud, the first branching list in Tanakh. As mentioned, in Perek Yud we have a description of Noach's extensive family, which branches out from his three sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The great importance of this list is emphasized in the concluding sentence, and from these the nations separated in the land after the flood. But what does it tell us beyond the list of people that disappeared thousands of years ago? The commentators had some interesting insights. The first I noticed was Rashbam's answer to Rabbi Yosef Kara. Why doesn't the Torah mention Put's children? Do we not find that in Yechezkel that he had some descendants? To understand the question, we need to know that the four sons of Ham, Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan are all mentioned in our parasha. Three of these sons, Cush, Mitzrayim, and Canaan, receive an extensive description of their children in our parasha, whereas Put is mentioned only in the opening verse, even though he has descendants as seen in three prophecies in the book of Yechezkel and two more prophecies, one in Yirmiyahu and one in Nahum. Rashbam answers that Put was blessed with children, but compared to his three brothers, of whom many children became nations in their own right, all of Put's children remained a single nation. Rashbam continues and emphasizes that the 70 nations on our list constitute the 70 nations of the world, and even though Abarbanel teaches that other more modern nations emerge from these nations, it can be said that they embody the prototype of the later nations that emerge from them. This leads us to Rashi's words in Parashat Ha'azinu that then compare the 70 people who descended from the Israelites to Egypt to the list of the 70 nations here. Regarding this comparison, Radatz Hoffman says that unlike most people in ancient times who chose to ignore other nations at best or treat them as barbarians and kill them at worst, the Torah opens with a list of families of the nations so that the children of Abraham remember that they have an obligation and kinship towards all nations of the world. There are other insights that can be gleaned from our list. For example, we can check why the Torah chose to dwell on characters like Nimrod, or what Ashur, one of Shem's sons, was doing in the land of the sons of Ham, from where he was forced to leave, and more. But I noticed something else interesting. Our list is not very, shall we say, symmetrical. I'm not referring to the number of nations that come out of each of the sons, although according to Radas Hoffman, Ham has more, 30, than Shem, who has 26, and Japheth, who has only 19. I don't expect equality at birth. The asymmetry is more pronounced in the PR giving to the nations of Ham's children, compared to Japheth's children, who receive a coverage of 4 verses, and all we know about them is that from them the islands spread out into nations, and the Semites who receive 11 verses. The thing that we know about them is the days of Peleg, the land was divided. The sons of Ham receives 15 verses. In which we hear about the exploits of Nimrod and his kingdom, about Ashur, aforementioned son of Shem, who left Ham and the cities he built, and about the land of Canaan and his sons. In addition, in Ham's list, we hear for the first time significant names such as Babylon and Canaan and Egypt and the Philistines, important nations in the biblical geopolitics. Naturally, the geographical location of various people cannot be ignored, and the Tanakh will devote more time to the nearby nations of Ham than to the people of Japheth who are far away. We must also not forget that the people of Shem will take center stage from here until the end of Tanakh, so it's probably a good time to shed some light on Ham's descendants. Still, I think the timing is interesting. After all, it was only in the previous chapter that Noah finished the cursing of Canaan, a descendant of Ham, condemning him to slavery to Shem and Japheth. I don't know what can be learned from this proximity. Is this an implicit criticism of the curse? Are we being told that it didn't happen immediately? Maybe it's something else I haven't thought of. Honestly, I have no idea. I'm just thrilled that I was left with something to mull over. I am Dovi Holtz, one who loves Tanakh. שהדברים יהיו לעילוי נשמת תלמידי האהוב עמיחי שמעון בן ישי ובת ירובין השם ייקום דמו. יהי זכרו ברוך.